Hello everybody and welcome to day 2 that starts our journey with the Make fundamentals finally. So we went through some initial stage where we had to learn about the minimal theoretical part about the JSON that will be required for us, because as we spoken, most of the thing in Make based on a JSON. So you have to know and understand what is JSON and what are data structures that we're going to use in almost any of our automations. So let's start with the Make and the fundamentals of Make. So the quick overview of the menu and everything in Make. I just want to give you a short overview. We won't stop on each tab and everything. So that's what you need to understand, that you have the organization. As we spoke already, you may have several of them, right? And you might be part of several of them, like your customers. So you might add as many as you want the teams, and you have some features here, right? Which are your team settings, your scenarios. These are our flows that we work. Templates of these scenarios. So you may start from a scratch from the scenario, or you may start from a template. This will be a list of your connections. So here you will be able to see all connections for application that you have. List of your webhooks that we will cover in next video about the fundamentals, and the keys. So keys are like a special connections that you create and you can reuse, but these are not a standard connections for all the apps. It's like a custom connection, such as custom connection where HTTP modules and so. Couple more things, which are devices that you may have here, depending on the size of your screen. You may see more or less. So devices are the mobile devices that you can use when you install application Make on your Android or Mac OS, the Apple OS means iOS, iPhone, right? And the data stores, these are databases, like analog of tables. If you're not familiar with the database, there's analog of tables. And data structures, so now you know what a data structure means, like structures. And data structures, these are like patterns or like schemas of data structure that you may save and reuse in different sources, which we're going to cover later. Your resource hub, where you may find some useful information about Make, including like manuals and so. And you have option to find a community and get in touch with support and so. And here you have my apps, which is list of your custom applications. So this is like a higher level of the things that you may build. So we're going to talk about this in short. But actually, I have another program that's dedicated completely and only to custom applications. So if you will be interested in to explore it, this really great asset. So things like notifications and help won't cover too much. So in notification, you will be notified about the issues happening in your with your scenarios, so you will be able to jump in it and solve if needed. And you have this part, which is profile, right? So in this profile, you will be able to see organizations that you're part of and different type of settings, including the email preferences, where you can set up your email settings to get or not get a notification. Time zones, find the API key, set up to FA authorization, and set up your affiliate program if you want to share your link and get money based on the user, like from the user who joined Make using your link. So that's kind of should incentivize you to share the Make. Okay, actually speaking about the URL, as you may see here in Make, right, we have that structure of URL. This will be your instance, right? So currently you can select either US1 or EU1. And make.com enterprise instances has another URL. OEM instances might have another URL. So this is your instance URL, so you just remember that it is. Then we have our organization. And if you switch on the org, again, it's self-explanatory, and it says organization and 58, that ID of the org, the ID of organization. When you switch to scenario, that 25 in my case, it's an ID of a team. We're going to talk about this, but just quick heads up so you remember it. And that's scenario and URL. This is ID of your scenario, then logs, right? And that ID will be ID of your executions. The current execution ID here matches to ID here. That's why, like how you actually can build this ID, right? The URL, and the whole thing called scenario URL, right? Either scenario log URL and so on. But the topic of our today session, the most of it will be scenarios, right? Scenarios and canvas and everything related. We will briefly touch the variables and expression and functions. Just a short overview of them, and you will have separate section with a description of functions. So let's go to our called canvas, right? So in any place of your dashboard, here you will have this option, the button to create a scenario, and you can sort them either by folder or so. So I will just let's take the one that we used already, or you can take any scenario you want, and let's take a look on it briefly. So what we have here calls canvas, and this is kind of you may, if you want, you may go and explore it a bit using the inspector in your Chrome to see how it builds. So this is a part of it with the elements of our canvas. It's somewhere here. It's just because it's not active. I have a hover, and this is not super important part. Just want to real quick touch base on it. So you may want, if you want, you may go and explore a bit on how exactly build the canvas as an HTML element. Might be interesting for you. But what is interesting for us is this part. So the canvas itself contains modules, right? So these modules kind of, you see these circle guys, right? And you may just use and reuse them, copy paste them. You have the one only trigger that can be connected to only one module, and there are some modules such as triggers, right? So they call in many cases like a watch. So these trigger modules can be the only initial first module in your scenario. Means, as you might notice, right? So I literally can't connect this module to this, right? Just because this is a trigger. The module JSON can be like in any place of your scenario, including the starting module, but the watch module can be the only one. And this is why sometimes when you are going to add a new module, right, you might not see ability to connect, to add the new module. So for example, if I'm going to do it in here, right, I'm going to add a module, which will be after the initial one, after the trigger, right? I won't be able to see a watch module, as you may see here, right? So this might confuse it, might confuse you a bit, but you just need to remember and understand that our instant trigger and watch polling trigger modules, which are both our triggers, usually they put in sections just like triggers. In different application, you may just, I don't know, go and explore it. For example, some application with many apps, with many modules in it. Let's say the ClickUp. So as you see here, right, I do not have modules like a watch, right? So most of them like create, do something, but not a watch. But if I'm going to open either list of modules from here, right, or just in any other place of scenario, you may see a lot of more watches that you saw here, because here was showing nothing, but here I do see the watch task, 2 of them, and that was actually instant. We will cover them on tomorrow. Right now, what you need to understand that the watch module will can be the only initial module in your scenario, especially the webhooks, definitely, right? So, and then let's explore a bit more in more detail. So this is actually the button that you can use to arrange your modules, so to make your scenario nicer a bit, right? So zoom in, zoom out. The canvas itself. So this place where we have the modules called canvas, and if you will hold the shift and hover your mouse just like this, click on it left side, and you can like select several modules, right? So 1 or 2 or and so on. So you can click Ctrl+C, Ctrl+V to paste it, or just do it as you do with the text, right? So just right click, copy modules, and right click, paste. So that will paste your modules. You may, if it's the first time, your browser may ask you like, hello, here to copy paste. So you click it once, and then it will remember your choice and won't ask you again. So usually just I do this with the Ctrl+C, Ctrl+V, super simple, just copy paste, and you can paste as many as you want of these guys. Ctrl+Z, like undo doesn't work actually. So man, you can remove them with the right button and click delete. So what you need to understand that when you copy these guys, if you by any chance will paste this anywhere else in some text editor, which might be your search bar, this is super convenient. I use a lot of the search bar, and I just need super simple text editor. I don't jump anywhere else, just text editor. Like a search bar works as a text editor. Also, the make itself propose the option to do it in here, like any module. Click on any module will bring you this one, add node. Okay, so that actually the thing. So as you see, it's connected. This small line connected to this module. It's kind of a node for your module. So you may say, I don't know, I have some people use it for operation to remember what's happening in this module, and you can put whatever text and details. So I may just illustrate you and use this again as another like a text, like a node option here, right? Like a text editor, to show you that what we just copied, actually a couple of modules, nothing else, as a JSON. So that's what you need to remember and understand, that everything that's happening here is encoded in the JSON, including the modules and all parameters stored in them, like variables, these kind of fields, right, with the values. They are everything stores as a piece of a JSON. then encode it, decode it, and so on. And this where magic starts. So another option to do this thing, the copy, like export and import the whole thing, we have here with the option export blueprint and import it. So export will give you a JSON file. Actually, when you will be on a free plan, you won't be able to export the scenarios. Let me bring you to a free plan so we can see the difference for the free plan. So basically this one, yeah, this is my free plan, and if I go to scenario to create it, yeah, it works. We might change it sooner or later, but by default the free plans might not have this option. That at least was in Integra mod, and this actually might be some flow that should be maybe updated. So not be surprised if you won't be able to export import this with a button on a free plan. So just be aware about it. And anyways, you may use just this kind of copy paste. And what is interesting, when we'll talk about this later, this copy pasting will save your references for your variables. So you see I have the module number 1 here, right? And the variable, this field we call variable, and we have a list of it. So when we copy paste this guy, like these two modules, and here, if we open the second module, the reference will be automatically updated. So you see I have the variable from module 21, not from module 1, means that will work at once. I don't need to remap it, right? By the map we mean bring another like variables or so. It will work. So another cool option to remember and know. So sometimes, and that's actually how it works, as soon as you add one module in scenario, it becomes with the number 1, and then it just incrementally increase. So you see each next module that I add will have a new number, right? So you remember, because I added and removed several of them, I mean the modules already, this increment already 23. If I won't save the scenario and reload it quickly, that will kind of reset this counter, and I will start with this one, right? So let's add another module. So that is 7. So scenario means was saved with a kind of 6 modules used in it, and it's remember that we start with a 7. So but then each time we can add it will be 8, and so on, so on, so on. Actually, so you also remember we have this previous version, so you may just go back to last saved version, and this actually I have the only one, but as soon as you will save and save it again, it's like a game where you have the save points, so you can go back to saved one. It doesn't save that automatically, so you have to do it. So this is the thing about our canvas. This is a number of modules. So you see I add a couple more, it comes 9. So what I can do, literally I can export the blueprint, and let's just jump into it to see how it works and looks like. So that's our blueprint inside. We won't go in each section of it, just briefly. Let's go over. So it has a name. So you see here, it's a name of the scenario that literally comes from here. We'll change it to new. And we have a flow. The flow is the main section with literally modules in it. And we have a section that calls metadata. This is just a general information about the scenario. Like you see here, nothing super interesting for us. Most things happening here. So this flow contains collections of flow, as you see, array. and that array contains collections of modules. So this each of collection of the thing, it will be our module. It will be presented with a module name. It's an internal name that make uses, like email, trigger mail here. Another one calls like util, like utilities, or like utilities something, and then function sleep. And they have IDs. So that means if I want to, let's say, change my ID for this guy, I may just put, let's say, 2, and then just save this file to reuse it. That's how you may just fix some things in your scenario. And previously we actually didn't have the option copy paste, right? So that was working also for the copy paste. But we will get back to this canvas later. We'll start when we will start work with the API, because the make API, because this is literally the piece that you can use to create the whole scenario automatically, remotely, just with kind of one API call. And you literally provide the blueprint. Okay, so our blueprint file is saved, and I can go to import the scenario from file, and let's see what will be changed. It's actually my browser thing, and sometimes it doesn't want to pop up, so I'm going to pause video quick and restart the browser. Okay, so and let's import the blueprint from the file. So it should be saved with the number of this JSON that also will be incremented. Okay, so what we got here, so you see we have the number of our module updated accordingly to that we set in a JSON. So this is just a super quick step so you to understand that everything that happens here is literally a piece of a JSON. So definitely you can just copy paste this guy alone and do the same. So if either or, you may just have notes here, just add this JSON and quickly update this to, let's say, 100, then just copy paste the whole text and just paste it here. Let me see. Yeah, so this probably just because I haven't imported the whole JSON, that trick with the module numbers won't work. But in general, you can understand that this is still the piece of a JSON, and all settings that you do in Integromat or Make, it's literally stored as a JSON. Okay, so this quick overview in a canvas, so you have more understanding of what exactly the canvas. So when we will reference to meaning like a canvas, so you know what we mean. Okay, and now let's talk a bit about the scenario itself and what else feature we have in it. So scenario, again, it's a kind of flow that work on some programmed way to serve our automation, right? So to transfer data, make some action, and so this action is programmed by the trigger, and this is the place where we start. It has several options from super basic to advanced, and for some modules such as webhook, right, and webhooks inside the applications, that can be also, so custom webhook, that can be also advanced. So if we click in here, it says immediately, right? So here you see the several options, including the immediately, while on other modules such as watch, if it doesn't says you instant. So as an example, again, let's open something like the same ClickUp. I just used the ClickUp as an example. So you see we have the instant. So this instant means that this is the webhook, and this just watch and acid mean that just the watch module means it's not a webhook. Then it just technically can't have the instant trigger. So, and these guys have all the rest besides the instant. So you just need to understand that if the system or like API, the service itself, the ClickUp, allows us to put remotely or manually some like a URL to receive a data from that service, right? This how literally webhook works. So webhook, it's like a URL address that you set, and then someone else can send a data to it. It's like your email. And actually, if you go to webhooks, you will see the custom mail hook module that works exactly almost the same, but it just generates not the URL as we have here. It generates for us the email address. So the instant modules that we have in some services, if service allows us to do it, it's either remotely add this webhook, so you just kind of create a connection. That's actually also important part for any module, almost any module that's related to separate service. So you just create a connection. Let me just go and do it real quick. And then, as soon as connection created, if the service as a ClickUp allows us select some event and subscribe, kind of subscribe on it. So you see that particular one allows me to select several events like a task created, task updated, task deleted, and so on. So then you can do it. And then each time when the particular thing will happen, like a task created, our module will be triggered if our module set as be triggered immediately. So that's for the webhooks. For the rest of the modules, let's just remove these guys. For now, these trigger setting works in several ways, such as at regular intervals, once, every day, and so on. So you may just explore this to find different options, and we will speak about this during our program. So in most of the cases, it will be either every day or regular intervals, right? So you check this on some interval. So that's something about schedule that we need to cover to understand like how we start our scenario, because we need to know, like we know how to create it, just to click the button, right? How to like add the modules to it using the search or like things from here, and then how to save it and how to schedule it, because this important things. So we have now go through the functions. I'm going to briefly give you explanation on what is function and appeals. For this, let's just remove these guys, and I add the set variable, which is these are actually standard modules which you might see on any scenario when you create it. So that is a flow control. We're going to talk about this later in our videos about the iterators and aggregators, because in most cases these two guys will be used. These are tools. So these are system tools that we use, and most of the case will be like a set variable or set multiple variables that you have here. You might not see this deprecated, and just correct option for it, like a set multiple variables, just like this. These two guys allow you to either create one variable and just save it. For example, you can use the test and then just add whatever value in here, and so And then when you run this module, the output will show you the test as the name of your variable you set and the value for it. The set multiple variables does exactly the same, but with the difference that you can create several variables inside of it. Super simple. And we're going to talk about our variables and functions. So variables, quick immersion overview of it. So we call them variables, or you may call them peels, whatever you like. So the variable, it's like you see the peel that contains some value. So I put it, and it calls a date, right? But when we will run the module, it doesn't mean that will be the only one value for it. This value will change depending on the data that will be returned by this module. So that's why it's kind of variable, right? And it will have some value. But the name for it will be date all the time, right? And because you know already the how works JSON and data structures, let's see some data. So I'm going to bring some values just to work with. So hopefully this test account works for us. Let's see. Yeah. So, and when I run it, so you see I got some data. And that's because we already worked as a JSON. So, and I explained it to you a bit. So we have a ton of arrays and collections here, and you may use this data received in your literally any field. Either it will be a filter or following modules with the fields in it. You can use these fields variables inside this module. So and depending again on the structure, if it's a collection, it will be just an arrow here. If it's an array, it will be also an arrow, and it will have square bracket. So let's quickly talk about the reference of these variables and how we work with them. This is important part, and that's what you need to remember. And we will have also one home task based about this, because it's really, really important so you to understand how to reference correct variable. So just assume or just try to imagine that sometimes these peels, first of all, might not correspond to data. That might happen in case when the module, for example, has no idea what will be in it. So same webhook, right? Or it might be several cases. In most of the cases, its system literally does not know what data will be outputted by module, right? So here with an email module, we know that anytime it will have a date, email, for example, like text content, and so sender. So these kind of all the time will be the same structure, same variables, and similar type of the values in it. But if we have, let's say, custom fields that different all the time, they might be presented, they might not be presented. The structure might change. So that's why you need to understand how to reference variables. So for this, let's explore the, let's say, headers. Just assume you need to get headers from this email, right? So that's how it works once again. So you have the output which presents to you and returns to you a raw value of a data that received the module. And you have array, so we've spoken already about arrays, right? And this array calls headers list. So what I want you to see is a name. So the name that presented by module output here is headers, right? So you see the capital headers, but if you hover on it, the mouse, and we'll leave it for a sec, you will see a headers list. So this is raw we call it row value. Same thing will happen here if you go to these guys, right? So you see the headers dash list, and the row value for it will be headers list. Okay, so just you remember that this output, so headers list right here, it's a different from something that we have in a row value. So the names here on this output and on variables, they will match, right? But the row value will be different. This with the headers list here. This is what we do to make it like more nicer for user to understand. But we always work with the row values when we reference them, and that's what I want you to show for variables and how it works. So once again, when I put, for example, the basic list, we have values. I just open drop down, and that will be something that we just added. Okay, so what we literally just did, we referenced some parameter inside of our thing here. So this was actually parsed JSON. This is a structure, right? And this is array. It has many items which are headers of our email. Each header has, as you see, the structure is the same for all of them. They all have key with it's literally a key. It's delivered to, it's argsil, it's X received, return path, and so. And each of them has value. This value is delivered to, it's a email address that was delivered. That value is this, and this is actually array. So as you see, right, so we've spoken before about it. So this is array, and just assume we need to reference, for example, I just want to find the second item. Yeah, let's just use this one. So this is actually received, and several things about our received data. So if I go to output of this module, so you will see this is received. This is received is array, and it contains two pieces of a text. I want to emphasize that on it. So this is the first item of our array. This is a second item of our array. Okay, so if I need to reference the second item of this array, I have several options to do it. So again, it's a headers list, second item in it, second item, the second collection, and we have a value which is also array, and we have a second value in this value array, right? So second item. So I go to my variables. Once again, just remove this one to see. So headers list, this the general thing, right? The main piece of the thing. Then we have a values, which is array, and then we have items in it. So if I click on this, it will allow me to have several options, and by default, so you see that kind of square bracket will be empty. What it means in Integromat Make, we have the rule. So by default, we will reference always the first item of array. So if I just select thing like this, let's do it in variable. So you can in set variable. So you can also copy paste this as an expression, right? So this variable in this case, so you can just copy it as an expression. So you can paste it here, and if I will run this module again, so I will select the last email to process, run it, that will receive my thing. Okay, so it's interesting what exactly thing we received, right? So we received the email. Why that happened? Happened it just because when we go to list, the first item and here will be delivered to, right? And the value for it will be my test email. So what if we need to reference the second one, the second item? This whole thing and this particular second part from it. We just need to go here and change these numbers. So we need to say the system literally that our headers list item, so we need a second collection from it. By doing this in make, you simply reference the final value. So just open. I need this one, right? In a structure, and we need to reference the number. So if I will put 2 here, that means I will get thing from here. So headers list, second item, and that will be my collection that I will work with. So if I haven't referenced and I haven't put anything in square bracket, that will mean it will return me the first value. Okay, just like this. So you see we haven't set anything here, so we have 2, and that doesn't have any value. You may ignore these things that happening. As you see, it got not kind of fillet with the color. It's just because system sometimes might just not populate the values as soon as you change the main reference number. Okay, but it's still okay. So I will put 2 here and I will put 2 here. What that will do for us, once again, it will work with our headers list. We'll take the second item and we'll take the second value, means this guy. So let's just run our module. Okay, so as you see, this is what we've got. We got list and second item from it, this one, from MTA 2221 and so on. And if you copy this, it's already kind of, it's still variable, but it's already expression because it contains from several parts, and paste it in any text editor, you will see a structure of variable in make. So how it works is we have that calls double mustaches or double curly brackets. Then we have, as you see, 1, which means the number of module number 1, and then that thing calls a dot notation. So dot notation, it's just like a reference as you have on a website, for example, right? So if you go to let's say same make scenario or so, right? So you have the slashes here. It's like a folder. Same thing. So same thing, but for JSON. So if you go to output of your module, you can go and build this variable on your own without using UI. So this sometimes is very useful when you do not have the reference. In our case, all these guys had the same structure, but just assume that you need to reference second, third, or fifth item, and that item has a different structure. It doesn't have keys and value here, something different. So you may just go and build it on your own. So output, and let's just do it. And this will be also part of your homework to build a variable and get a value from some examples. So I start to build it. I will just remove it for now to explain you how it works. So again, you remember we start with the double quotes. It's everything. The whole expression should be in the double quotes. And we start with the number of module, which is 1 here. And then we have the thing that calls dot notation. That will presume that we kind of built our address using this kind of tree structure. So you see, we start to work with this element, which is the big nameless collection. And just assume that as soon as you put one like number of module, in this case it's a one, might be different number, and dot, you reference this whole collection. And now you start to go deeper, and you put literally what you need to reference. Okay, so the rule is actually simple. If your item, in this case this is a collection, right, then you just use a dot for reference. If your item is array, that will be in our case, because we will work with the list, and to reference further value you need to also for array have square bracket. So super simple one, then dot to reference item on the top level. In my case it's a headers list, so I just put the cursor here and add the headers list. Then we go deeper, but this is array. So if we deal with a collection, just a dot. If we deal with the array, then should be a square bracket. So we put two square brackets at once, and then we kind of got into this place, means into whole thing. Okay, so by leaving this empty, we always will reference the first item. So several options to do it. Either use square brackets or just square brackets and one will give you the first item. Okay, and because we need the item number 2, we will put 2 in our square brackets. That will automatically kind of give us access to this. So by default, if I would just leave it as is, that would return me the whole collection. And again, our rule, if we need to reference collection property, not the array, right? So we just have a dot. So we reference this guy in full, and then we have a dot, and we kind of get an access to these two guys. And I select what exactly of these two I need. I need a value. So I just put the value, and I got access one level deeper, right, to this. Because this is array, I need to let the system know what exactly item of array I need to have. I need to have the item number 2. So I put 2 in my square brackets. And that as our variable, which we just created. And if we copy it here, it will work exactly the same and look exactly the same. This is actually a small UI bug. It should be a number of module here. It might be not fill it with a color, but that should have the number of module. And actually not fill it presumes that system does not know this structure, but it doesn't mean it's not correct. So as you see, our variable, which we just created, works just fine. That was short, not a short, but overview of the variables and how to use them, how to build. So this is important to remember, know and understand. You will have a home task again on how to do it, and with a task to get the variable from a structure. Also make, and this is what we're going to cover today, will definitely allow you to use a lot of functions and pills. You will have separate section with the description of each function. We'll go deeper in it. We just need to understand how it works in general. So we have several types of these functions. So first up is for variables only. You have search to find it. If you, let's say, need email, for example, or just a header, right? You just type it, and that will filter for you required thing. You can just close it. Just a header will leave you the only headers fields and their values, right? If I need the email, I just type the email, and that will leave everything with the email. Super easy. So that one is general function. So we have two kind of more, maybe a little bit more types of the thing. So one of these will be functions, such as if function. So if you're more or less familiar with the programming, you know what if means. And actually, if you don't know, each function has, like when you hover the button on it shows you the description of the function. Also in make, you see the, it kind of show you where the function ends. So you see if I hover on F, it shows me the blue one, and it shows like parts of this function only. So I may have several functions included in it, but that will always reference the only particular function, so I understand where is my F is. Okay, so you will have separate video on the functions. So we have several of them. It's a general, several sections. The general, it's a math functions here. It's a text functions, a lot of them. It's a date functions, and these are functions for particular for our structures, such as arrays and collections. It's like kind of one of the most advanced. Also, you have these guys. It's kind of system appeals or system values. Some of them system, some of them like work as a UID, for example. This just returns you a random generated number, like a special in special format. So if you just run it, you will see it's kind of randomly generated. Works well for some IDs or I don't know, maybe even for code or something. Like usually it's kind of ID of item, works great because it returns you a unique number. So guys like this execution, this is your scenario ID execution. So if you just run it, it will return you the unique scenario execution. This is actually a part of our thing. Like when your scenario runs, we call this execution. So it's kind of was executed, and that returns you the ID of this execution. These guys is just for math. So random number from 0 to 1. Some fractional that you can multiply, let's say, by 100 to get random number from 1 to 100, right? So in that case, it would return you 75, and you can round it to make it nicer. That's how you use the math variable operators also. So these yellow guys here and here, they are operators. So if I need to get random number again from let's say 1 to 100, that's how it usually works in programming. This random function returns you a random number from 0 to 1. So what I need to do, I need to multiply this by 100, whatever order, 100 by this. This will work better, will return me the number already like a 41, and I need to round it because it returns me a long tail of decimal pieces, right? So I just add a function that calls round. This will round it to the highest, nearest. It actually goes to nearest integer, not the highest. Okay, so that's how it works. Okay, and returns us 32, and so on. So this is actually a combination already of function and the kind of system variable. That already might be called as an expression. So it's just a combination of several things. This is just a piece of a text. In that case, system interprets this as a number and multiplies this by this number, and we then round it. So we got a number of output. This actually, because you know how to work with the JSON, right? you always can check the type of your data when you go to output. So you see we don't have a quote, as we presumably should have with a number or with a text. So that means and shows you clearly once and forever that this is a number, right? So the system returns you a number. So you don't need to convert it in a number if you need. And a couple more system fields here. System variables will be timestamp and now. This for dates. So your timestamp will return you a Unix timestamp. It's a 10 digits. It's like a seconds since 1970 January 1st. This is a super common way for a time in machine code in programming, because it's way better than work with the text, which will be returned by now, which is another format called ISO 8601, and looks like this. Again, you remember that the visual representation of it is slightly different from something that the value actually contains. So you see when you hover, you will see the real one, and if you go to output, you will see the real value that this is returned, and it returns you date and time, and also seconds and milliseconds, 3 digits, and Z means a UTC time zone. So then we have these couple more guys. These are for Boolean variables like a true false. Then we have ignore. This for special field. Just ignore the field, completely exclude it collection, like excluded from a collection. And null means kind of nothing, no value in it. And erase works for some particular cases, just to remove the value from some databases. These guys are mathematical operators. Just remember to use them when you work with math. Just not do something like number 1, 2, 3, 5 plus something. That won't work. Will be considered just a piece of a text. Nothing mathematical in it. If you go to output, you will see this just a text, right? So remember to use operators when you work or you want to do a math, right? And these guys are the text, as you may understand. So that will be a space. We'll just add the space to your text. This will add just empty string. There are some specific use cases that you're going to work, such as replace something with the empty string. And so, or for some logic, like if that, then nothing, just like empty string, a tab, new line, and carriage return. So this system, guys, that help you to break your line, for example, or add a space. So if I add new line here, it will add a space and also will break the line. So means add the text on the next line. So that's it for today, guys. So that was a canvas and scenario itself, and the options to work with the system pills and the functions. Again, the video about functions you will find in a separate section, and we will use them one by one to use it, not just go over each of them and then forget that for like the next hour. So you will use them one by one. Okay, so see you in next video, where we're going to talk about more make fundamentals to help you to become more advanced makers.